Hi guys, Boris from Dataracity here. Today's video, I'll be showing you one of the most exciting capabilities in Microsoft Fabric, mirroring. Now, one of the biggest challenges in today's modern data platforms isn't building reports or dashboards. It's efficiently moving data from source systems to analytical environments. Organizations often spend a significant amount of time building, monitoring, and scheduling data pipelines that do the ingestion process. These pipelines take time to manage. They can fail and often need a lot of maintenance. Microsoft Fabric Mirroring has a different approach. Instead of constantly extracting and loading the data, in mirroring, the destination is loaded with the data only once. And then there is a sync between the source and the destination. And whenever the source changes, that gets reflected on the destination. From a business perspective, that means engineering teams can spend less time with the pipeline ingestions and more time providing value through analytics. Also, data will be available much faster for data analysts, data engineers, and business users. It's important to understand that mirroring doesn't replace data engineering. You still need modeling, transformation, cleansing, and business logic. What mirroring does, it takes away the challenging part of landing the data into Microsoft Fabric in a simple and efficient way. Now, next to this demo, I'll show you how you can mirror an Azure SQL database onto Fabric, how it works, and what business value it can provide. Let's get started. Okay, so jumping into the demo, we have provisioned an Azure SQL database called AdventureWorks 2022, which is using the same sample data from AdventureWorks. This is going to be the source operational database that will be mirrored onto the Fabric destination. This is a quick overview of how everything is set up on the source database side. A very important thing is the pricing tier. This must be a minimum of standard S3 100 database transactional units for the mirroring onto Fabric to work. So if we go into the pricing tier a little bit on the details, we can see it's configured to have 100 DTUs and 2 gigabytes of storage. And then the payment plan is 161 USD per month. Now, onto the Fabric side, I've created a workspace called Azure Source Database Mirrored, where I'm actually going to be creating the mirrored database. So you can just search for mirrored Azure, and then it's a bunch of different databases, but we want a mirrored Azure SQL database. And we want the source to be an Azure SQL database. Now, the connection string settings here, we just need server name and database name. Here, the server endpoint will be put. And then the database which we will be using. So I will see you in the next step. Okay, so credentials were entered. Now we're through to the next step, and this is kind of the final step of the initial process to set it up and land the data. Now it's going to be loading and just kind of try to find all the tables that we want to replicate. Yeah, we just do select all for now. We want to replicate the whole database. Now there are some errors here showing, and some of them are due to data types. So this is an XML data type that is not currently supported in Fabric. And then there is one more issue, and that is why it's saying 68 out of 71, because that next issue, it's not going to include the column at all. It's because it's using an nvarchar in the primary key column, while in Fabric that is not supported yet. So yeah, that is why some of these three, I guess, of these tables will not be landed into the mirrored side, the destination side. So yeah, now we're going to connect, and we can just name this mirrored so we can tell a difference between the two. And now it's just going to be doing the landing of data. And the good thing about this is now we have to wait a few minutes. But the good thing about this is that usually in the ingestion process, when this is happening, there would need to be pipelines made, data flows notebooks, copy activities, different kind of activities to move the data from one system to another. And then in this case, that's not a thing. We just replicate the data, which is basically the source system and Fabric are talking via the SQL Server transaction log. And the good thing is that Fabric after the initial landing of the data, it only looks at the transaction log. So every time it just looks at something changing in SQL Server or Azure SQL Database or whatever source we're using, it is immediately going to reflect that onto the destination or on the Fabric side. Now this is a bit, sometimes you have to wait a bit. You see, now it's showing us something. It's showing the table name, the status that it's running, rows replicated, last completed, and delay. Rows replicated means just how many rows it's synced. It should be the exact same on the source side and on the destination side. So we are going to test for a specific table now after it finishes loading. Okay, so it seems the rows have been fully replicated, and it did take only about 2 minutes, which is pretty good. Now we can see the row counts here, but we can't actually test it and see what's happening. So if we want to see what's actually happening on the mirrored Fabric side, we need to go to the SQL Analytics endpoint. Now, before we do that, let's look at the source side. So the source side, we're going to test for one table, and it's country, region, currency, and it has 3 fields. And then we can do a count as well, 109 rows. Now on this side, let's see for the same table, it should have the same amount of fields, 3 fields, and then the row should be also 109. Now this is what is supposed to happen. Now, what is a further capability which is really good for this mirroring is that, let's say there is a change, a column change on the source, or in the ERP system, we add a column and the schema changes. So in this case, let's say in the ERP, we add 1 column and we update that column with some values. And now we have a different field which is populated. So now, depending on if we change something in the ERP or whatever system or in the source database itself, it should reflect on the Fabric side. Now, this should take about maybe a minute, depending on what kind of changes it. Again, on insert, update, delete, it usually is much faster than a schema change, but a schema change should also be probably, in this case, waiting about a minute. So you see a few seconds only have passed and it hasn't been reflected, but I'm guessing half a minute or a minute, it should be done. Okay, so a minute has passed, and I want to test the table if it has been changed. And yes, the change has been reflected. There is a new field added with the values we populated in the source. And this just shows that the replication works very, very well, and it is quite fast. Only a minute for schema changes. And this just shows why the Fabric mirroring is so simple, easy to use, and why it's such a good and powerful tool. And that's Microsoft Mirroring. I hope this gave you a better understanding of how it works and what kind of business value it can give to modern data platforms. If you have any suggestions or questions, please write them in the comments. Thank you for watching.